how Mindray's advanced SF-Cube technology is helping to screen for coagulation disorders by means of measuring accurate platelet counts as well as some other additional parameters. So we'll be testing what are the new parameters, what are associated with platelet, and we will be also touching on, so directly going to the presentation. So first we will see what was the conventional principle which was used in the earlier generation instruments for measuring RBCs and platelet. So as you all know, the conventional principle was impedance principle, which was starting from 3-part to the basic 5-part. But whenever this development was happening, everybody was concentrating only on the WBC development, WBC measurement principle, and platelet and RBCs was ignored. Now, Mindray has introduced this new technology, SF-Cube technology, for the analysis of platelet as well as RBCs. So as you all know, in the impedance principle, the challenge was the instrument was able to measure only the size of the cell, and based on the size, RBC and platelet was separated. So what are the challenges coming into this, and how SF-Cube technology can provide a solution to this? So the SF-Cube technology will be making your basic CBC instrument to a complete blood count analysis instrument in the future. So the terminology may be changing from CBC to CBA, that is the complete blood analysis. So what is the technology? We will see in the coming slides. So as you all know, all the classical flow cytometers and whatever principle is based on the flow cytometry will be measuring the laser scatter. So laser scatter or light scatter. Here in our SF-Cube technology, we are using laser scatter. Along with that, we have introduced a new parameter of fluorescent flow cytometer, fluorescence, and thus it becomes fluorescent flow cytometry. S stands for scatter, F stands for fluorescence. This fluorescence will give you the DNA and RNA information, which is indirectly the measurement of the maturity level of each cell. So we will be taking all these parameters and we will be analyzing it in a 3-dimensional manner. So you have to note down that we will be measuring each cellular size, each cellular complexity, as well as granularity, which is very important for platelet, and fluorescence, which is the DNA RNA information. These two, granularity and the DNA information, will give me more and more advanced parameters, which can give you a more accurate picture of the platelet activity as well as the platelet count. So you can see the 3-dimensional analysis of each cell to enumerate numerous new parameters. So what are the new parameters which is coming to platelet? So you can see my conventional platelet parameters, that is the platelet, MPV, PLCC, PLCR, and this kind of parameters, which has been already mentioned by many doctors in the previous lectures. So now what are the new advanced parameters? The new advanced parameters are the optical platelet measured after staining the platelet by fluorescent stain. Then comes the IPF. The terminology is little bit controversial, that is the immature platelet fraction, but I have a answer for that also. And what are the new parameters? The additional new parameters are MPC and MPM. This may be little bit new for all of you. That is the mean platelet concentration and mean platelet matter content. So this will give you the activity. And we have also some additional parameters on the RBC, that is fragmented red cells, microcytic RBCs, and hyper RBC and hypo RBCs. And what are these parameters? I will explain in the coming slides in detail. So as you all know, the conventional platelet parameters, which was available in the basic 3-part cell counters and the basic 5-part cell counters. We have not removed any of these conventional parameters from Mindray instrument. Rather than we have added some new parameters to our advanced hematology analyzer. I will not be saying cell counter. It will be rather than hematology analyzer. So the conventional parameters are the platelet count, and the mean platelet volume and platelet dark cell ratio. So these are the platelet dark cell ratio. Maybe you can tell it as a platelet which is having a size more than 12 femtoliters. So this will give you an indirect idea of the presence of giant platelets or the mega thrombocytes. So coming to the new parameter IPF, okay, the terminology of IPF is a little bit controversial since the terminology is immature platelet fraction. Platelet will be coming to the stream once it is matured, but this terminology IPF has been termed, okay. Why? Because of its larger size and larger fluorescence, because of the larger DNA RNA content. So what is, by definition, what is the IPF? So IPF is the percentage of large and immature platelet in the blood to the total platelet. So it's a percentage of large and immature. You have to note down, it's a large and immature platelet in the blood. So that maybe sometimes you may get some falsely elevated IPF even if there is no platelet, uncontrolled platelet production. Okay. So this, what are the utilities of these parameters? We will be seeing in the coming slides. So what are the clinical utilities of IPF? So this IPF can be used for differential diagnosis of thrombocytopenia. So once there is thrombocytopenia, what may be the reason of this thrombocytopenia, you can very well identify from the use of IPF by monitoring the IPF. By monitoring the IPF only, we can identify that. So we can distinguish between the thrombocytopenia due to the peripheral destruction or whether it is due to the inability of bone marrow to produce more and more platelet. So this can be classified using IPF, and this so IPF also can be used for monitoring the bone marrow failure or bone marrow regeneration. So monitoring the IPF value, you can very well predict that whether the bone marrow has been suppressed or whether the bone marrow is regenerating. So what was the classical use of IPF and how IPF came into picture was because of my last clinical utility, that it was when the dengue infection came across India. This IPF was a dependent parameter for many clinicians as well as pathologists for the prediction of platelet recovery. So this IPF was used at that time, and afterwards more and more use for IPF has been determined by pathologists and the clinicians. So as I was telling, IPF is the ratio of large and immature platelet. So what is the difference between HIPF and the IPF? So our HIPF will give you the ratio of high fluorescent immature platelet fraction. So we have already taken a fraction of platelet from as a IPF. From IPF, again we are classifying. Again we are separating some fraction which is having very high fluorescence, not only size. From the platelet which are having only the larger size has been excluded from the HIPF. So this HIPF can be a well predictor for the platelet recovery. Why? Because in some patients, this the occurrence of larger platelet, not the immature one, the larger platelet may give you a falsely elevated IPF value, like in some patients with from the northeast region, okay, may have a higher IPF compared to the IPF of other people in the other parts. So they may have a larger platelet size and the IPF may be increased. So in order to differentiate the platelet which is having the really more and more DNA RNA content, we can use the HIPF, that is the high fluorescent immature platelet fraction. So this is the new parameter that Mindray's high-end hematology analyzers will be putting into the clinicians. So apart from this counting and the DNA RNA content, so as you all know, in the SF cube technology, we are having a 3-dimensional analysis. In the 3-dimensional analysis, we are having forward scattering, which is a size, and the side scattering, which is the granularity and the complexity, and the fluorescence, which will be giving you DNA RNA content. Now, Mindray will be analyzing the platelet based on the forward scattering as well as the granularity. Thereby, Mindray is able to give you a new parameter called mean platelet matter content and mean platelet concentration, which is both of these parameters are reflecting platelet activity. So in some patients, the platelet may be a little bit less, but the activity may be high, and it can be of vice versa also. So there are a number of platelets are there, but the activity is less. This can be identified by measuring the granularity of the platelet. So So many studies are going on these parameters, and this parameter may be related to the risk for some cardiovascular disease, as well as to some the internal thrombus formation. So MPC and MP, we have given two parameters. Why? Because the MPC and MPM are measured from two different measured using two different algorithms. So algorithm. So this is the MPC and MPM. The MPC is measured by from the histogram, not the classical histogram based on the size. It is a histogram based on the granularity of each platelet. Okay, so instrument will be able to measure the granularity of each platelet, and it will be plotting a histogram based on the numbers on the y-axis and the granularity on the x-axis. So based on from this histogram, instrument will be able to give you the MPC. The MPM will be directly measured from the scatter plot. So apart from the new parameters, we were facing some measurement challenges in the plate by using the conventional measurement. So as you all know, when we are dealing with the coagulation disorders, we should measure the platelet very much accurately. Otherwise, it can mislead you to some other disorders. So the measurement of the accurate platelet count is very important. So what are the challenges? What we were facing in the conventional platelet measurement was the large platelet interference, smaller microcytic RBCs, and microplatelets. So you can find falsely elevated platelet because of RBC fragments, WBC fragments, or microcytes or cryoglobulins. And it can be, you can give a pseudothrombocytopenia because of some aggregates, giant platelets, and platelet satellism. How we can handle this thing, we will see, and how the technology is measuring, helping in that. So as you have seen, SF-Cube technology is done using a three-dimensional, by measuring a three-dimensional scatter, as well as the analysis is being done in a 3D method. So in this, we'll be using two types of reagents, and one is the fluorescent reagent and one is the spearing reagent. All this reaction is happening at a heated reaction chamber, which is kept at 42 degrees. So there is a heating. Second thing is that in this reaction chamber, we are not using the classical bubble mixing. We are using a stirrer mixing for separating the platelet aggregates. This will ensure that you will have a removal of your platelet aggregates and you will have a removal of platelet satellites. So the cause of for the pseudothrombocytopenia has been removed by this heating process, as well as the stirrer mixing, as well as the reagent action of my spearing reagent. The second thing is that when I am staining these platelet as well as RBCs, I'll be able to remove microcytic RBCs. I'll be able to add large platelet in the platelet population, and I'll be able to remove RBC fragments and measure RBC fragments. So this will give you more and reliable, accurate counting, leading to the advantages of avoiding interference from microcytosis, cell fragments, large platelet, microplatelet, platelet aggregation or satellitism, and we can avoid taking citrate sample in case of EDTA-induced platelet aggregation. So it will provide you precise and accurate platelet counts, which is very much correlating with immunoplatelet counting methods. So apart from these platelet parameters, we have some new RBC parameters which can also help in some, differentiating some anemia, as well as which can be a supporting parameter for some coagulation disorders. So what are the new RBC parameters? So you can see I have mentioned FRC. FRC is nothing but fragmented red cells, and we have some microcytic and macrocytic RBCs percentage, which can utilized to distinguish between hemolytic anemia, or which can be used to identifying the iron deficiency anemia. Apart from this, I have the hemoglobin distribution width, and I have hypo and hyper RBCs. We'll see what are the uses. So what is FRC? FRC is the RBC fragment count. So fragmented red cell count. So RBC fragmented red cell count are schistocytes, and which is produced by the extrinsic mechanical damage. So there was no method available for identifying fragmented red cells before the advanced this hematology analyzer came into picture. So the FRC. So as you all know, FRC can be a supporting parameter in case of identifying DIC. So in DIC, you can see FRC, and we have already developed a cutoff for this FRC percentage in case of adults. Okay, so the 1% will be the cutoff for the FRC in adults for identifying the abnormal red blood cells. So what are the other uses? It can be also used in TMA, so where the endothelial cells of capillaries become damaged. So this FRC can be used for identifying TMA also. It can be a screening tool for TMA. So apart from this, identifying the clinical abnormalities, so the ICSH recommended that for identifying and counting fragmented red cells, you have to count at least 1000 RBCs. Okay, so which is a very tedious job, and which is not standardized across the laboratory. So by using a automated counting for the fragmented red cells, your counting of fragmented red cells becomes standardized, as we are measuring millions of RBCs in each count. So this is the hypo and hyper RBCs. So there was this hypo and hyper RBCs will give you an indication of the presence of hereditary spherocytes. So in order to find hereditary spherocytes, we have a parameter, and we have different papers on this for identifying the spherocytes based on the hyper RBC percentage. So how this hyper and hypo RBCs are identified, we will see in the coming picture. The hypo RBCs are having different cases of application, like it can be used in iron deficiency anemia, or it can be used in thalassemia and different other types of anemia. So how these hyper and hypo RBCs are measured? You can see it is measured from the scatter plot of RBCs. So the RBCs are being stained, even though the stain will be very, very few in those RBCs, but it is measured on a three-dimensional manner, and it has been analyzed. You can see hypo and hyper RBCs, which is having more hemoglobin concentration, and you can see based on the volume, the micro and macro RBCs are having separate. So the normal RBCs comes in the middle, and the hypo and hypo RBC will be on the left side, and hyper RBC on the right side. So from this plot, hypo and hyper RBCs are being measured. Coming to the new parameter, which is the hemoglobin distribution width. So we have seen in the classical instruments of regarding the RDW, which is the degree of anisocytosis of RBCs, which will give you the size variation of RBCs, this RDW. But this STW will give you a degree of anisochromia, that is a color variation in the hemoglobin. So it can be used in different kind of anemia as a direct parameter for differentiating different kind of anemia. So I have just mentioned this parameter, this is not related to coagulation disorder, but I have mentioned this here. Why? Because without any additional reagent, without any additional additional testing, you are getting these parameters as their byproducts. So I have mentioned this for your knowledge. So by means of all these parameters, the analysis becomes, the cell counting becomes cell analysis. So coming to the final slide of my presentation. So Mindray is offering healthcare within reach to all the populations.